My wife divorced me by text. She wrote, "I'm leaving you and moving to Miami with my 20-year-old hubby. I've already emptied our joint account, haha." I calmly replied, "Good luck." When she realized what I'd done, it was already too late. The day everything changed started like any other. It was early morning, the sun barely peeking through the curtains, and I was making coffee in the kitchen. I could hear the sound of my wife getting ready in the bedroom, the rustle of her clothes as she picked out something to wear for the day. I had no idea that this seemingly mundane morning would be the last time I would ever see my life as normal again. I poured the coffee, took a sip, and felt a warmth spread through me. That's when my phone buzzed. I looked down at it, and for a moment I froze. The message was from my wife. I had to read it twice, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. "I'm leaving you and moving to Miami with my 20-year-old hubby. I've already emptied our joint account, haha." I sat there, staring at the screen, my heart sinking with each passing second. My mind raced to understand what I had just read. My wife, the woman I had spent years with, the one I thought I could trust, was telling me she was leaving me for someone else. Not just anyone, her 20-year-old lover. And not only was she leaving, but she had already emptied our joint account. The word seemed surreal. The weight of it all hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't breathe, but I did the one thing I never thought I would do. I took a deep breath, and I calmly replied, "Good luck." It might seem strange, almost detached, but at that moment, it was all I could manage. The anger, the hurt, the confusion, it all swirled inside me, but I didn't let it out. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. I had been through too much in life to let this destroy me. So I sent those two words, simple and cold. I didn't expect what would happen next. She didn't reply immediately. Hours went by, and I sat there, wondering if she was packing or already on her way to Miami with him. The thought of her with someone else, especially someone so much younger, gnawed at me. But I didn't let it show. I went about my day, trying to act like everything was fine. But nothing was fine. As the evening approached, I found myself pacing in our living room. I kept thinking about everything we had been through together. The late-night talks, the laughs, the dreams we had shared. And now, it felt like they meant nothing. All the time we had spent together had been erased in a single text message. How could she do this? How could she leave without even a conversation, without any warning? I picked up my phone again, the weight of the situation finally starting to hit me. I dialed her number, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried again, and then again. Nothing. She had shut me out completely. For a moment, I considered driving to her parents' house, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. She had made her decision, and there was nothing I could do to stop her. But then, an hour later, I received another message. It was from her, and the tone was different now, almost desperate. "I didn't think you'd be so calm. I thought you'd be upset, but I guess you don't care." I couldn't believe it. She thought I should be upset. She had just dropped a bombshell on me, and I had responded calmly, like it was just another day. In a way, I guess that was the reaction she had wanted. She wanted me to break down, to beg her to stay. But I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to play her game. I didn't respond to her message. Instead, I took a step back and looked at my life. For the first time, I realized that everything I had known, everything I had built with her was a lie. The woman I had loved for so long, the woman I had trusted, was gone. And in her place was someone I didn't recognize, someone who could leave me without a second thought, without any remorse. Days turned into weeks. I stayed in the house, surrounded by the remnants of our life together. It felt like a dream, like I was in some kind of nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. I went through the motions, waking up, eating, working, but everything felt hollow. The silence in the house was deafening, and I couldn't escape it. I couldn't escape her. I tried to distract myself with work, with friends, but nothing helped. The anger that I had suppressed started to bubble up, and I found myself thinking about her more and more. What was she doing in Miami? Was she happy? Was she really happy with him? Or was it just some kind of impulsive decision? Then, a few weeks later, something happened that I never saw coming. I received a call from her, and for a brief moment, I considered not answering. But something inside me told me I needed to. I needed to hear her voice. to hear what she had to say after all this time. I picked up the phone. "Hello." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then her voice, softer now, came through. "Are you happy now?" she asked. It caught me off guard. For a second, I didn't know how to respond. Was I happy? I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure of anything anymore. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let her back into my life. Not after everything that had happened. "I don't know if I'm happy," I said, "but I'm better off without you." The silence that followed was thick with tension. I could feel the weight of her regret through the phone, but it didn't change anything. The damage was done. She had made her choice, and now I had made mine. "I just wanted to hear you say it," she whispered. "I didn't want you to hate me." "I don't hate you," I replied, "but I'll never forgive you." The line went dead. I put my phone down and stared out the window. The city below seemed so far away, so disconnected from the mess of emotions that had been swirling inside me for weeks. I realized then that I had to let go, truly let go. The life I thought I had with her was gone, and no amount of regret, no amount of apology, would ever bring it back. I didn't know what the future held for me, but I knew one thing. I was going to move on. I wasn't going to let her define my happiness. And yet, as time passed, something strange happened. The anger began to fade, replaced by something I didn't expect, a sense of freedom. For the first time in ages, I felt like I could breathe again. I could do whatever I wanted. The weight of her absence started to feel less like a burden and more like a new beginning. But just when I thought I had everything figured out, something unexpected happened. It was late one night, just as I was preparing to go to bed, when I received another text from her. The message was short, but it hit me harder than anything before. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen, my heart racing. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for, the moment that could change everything. But as I looked at the message, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was too late. Could I forgive her? Could I even trust her again? Or was this just another part of her game? I didn't know the answer. But what I did know was that I had a choice to make. The message sat there on my screen, blinking in the quiet darkness of my room. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Can we talk?" It was like a punch to the gut, yet a strange calm washed over me. She had apologized. The woman who had betrayed me, who had emptied our joint account and left for a younger man, was now reaching out. What did she expect from me? A tearful reunion? A heartfelt plea for forgiveness? For a moment, I felt the rage begin to build, but I squashed it. I couldn't let her control me again. It was as if all the emotions I had felt in the past few weeks, anger, sadness, betrayal, were trying to flood back in. The sting of her absence still lingered, but there was something different this time. It was like the weight of the world had been lifted from my shoulders. I had been living in this state of suspended animation, unsure of what came next, but now, with her message, everything felt uncertain again. I stared at my phone, my thumb hovering over the screen. Should I reply? Should I even care? The thought of letting her back into my life, of letting her have any more power over me, felt like a bad idea. But the curiosity gnawed at me. Why now? Why after all this time, after everything that had happened, was she reaching out? I felt my heart pounding in my chest. She had left me for another man. She had chosen a life with someone who was nearly half her age, someone she had clearly prioritized over the years we had spent together. And now, here she was apologizing. It felt wrong. It felt manipulative. She was probably just lonely. Maybe things hadn't worked out with her 20-year-old hubby. And now she wanted a safety net. She wanted to make sure I was still there, waiting for her to come crawling back. But I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't the man who would beg. I wasn't the man who would forgive her just because she was sorry. I put the phone down on the table beside me and stared at the ceiling. My mind spun in circles. Should I give her the satisfaction of a response? Or should I cut ties completely, as I had planned to do weeks ago? I tried to sleep that night, but it was impossible. The message haunted me. What did she want from me? She had already made her choice. She had already thrown our entire life away for something new, something shiny. She had left me with nothing but a broken heart and a trail of empty promises. Why should I care now? But the more I thought about it, the more the nagging question surfaced. What if she really was sorry? What if she made a mistake, just as she said? Was I being too hard on her? Could we ever fix what was broken? The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted, as though I had run a marathon in my sleep. The weight of the decision still hung over me, pressing on my chest. I had to face this head-on. It was time to figure out where I stood with her. If I was ever going to heal, I had to confront her. No more avoiding. No more pretending it didn't matter. I grabbed my phone and opened the message thread. Her name flashed on the screen, and for a moment, I almost regretted reading it. It felt like the beginning of a conversation that could undo everything I had worked so hard to move past. I swallowed hard, then typed a simple reply. Why now? I didn't know if I was looking for an answer, but I needed something, anything, that would give me clarity. Seconds turned into minutes. Minutes turned into an hour. Just as I was starting to doubt whether I would get a reply at all, my phone buzzed again. Her response was quick, almost too quick, as if she had been waiting for my reply. I've been thinking about everything. I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. But I can't stop thinking about us. I want to try again. I miss you. I read the message over and over. My emotions swirled, confusion, disbelief, anger. Miss me? After everything? Was this some kind of joke? Did she really think I could just forgive her, pick up where we left off, and pretend none of this had happened? I took a deep breath, trying to clear my mind. I couldn't make decisions based on emotion. I had to think clearly. I had to ask myself, what would I gain by letting her back into my life? The pain she caused me was still fresh. The anger I felt when I first read her message hadn't completely faded. I was still that person who had been left behind, who had watched the woman he loved walk out the door for someone younger, someone less experienced, less committed. She had shattered me, but I wasn't the same man I was when she first left. I had changed. I had rebuilt my life, piece by piece. I had learned how to live without her. I had learned how to rely on myself. And I knew, deep down, that I wasn't going to let her pull me back into the same toxic pattern. I wasn't going to go through the pain all over again. Yet, despite my resolve, part of me wondered if I could forgive her, if I could move past everything she had done and give our relationship another chance. A part of me was still holding on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, things could work out. But I knew I couldn't let that hope cloud my judgment. It wasn't just about forgiving her. It was about what was best for me. I put the phone down again and decided I needed a walk. Maybe the fresh air would help clear my head. I needed time to think, time to process everything. As I walked through the quiet streets, the cool breeze against my skin, my thoughts kept racing. What was her true intention? Was she really sorry? Or was she just lonely and regretting her impulsive decision? Could she truly come back after everything that had happened? And more importantly, did I even want her back? Every time I thought I had the answers, something new would surface, new doubts, new questions. The more I considered the possibility of reconciliation, the more the doubt crept in. Was I willing to forgive someone who had hurt me so deeply? Was I willing to take the risk again? The deeper I dug into my thoughts, the more I realized that I wasn't just questioning her actions. I was questioning my own. How had I allowed this to happen? How had I let her walk out of my life without putting up a fight? Why hadn't I seen the warning signs? Was it too late to fix things? Was there even a chance we could rebuild what we had? I walked for hours, the questions weighing heavily on my mind. By the time I returned home, the sunset was beginning to cast a warm, golden glow over the horizon. I stepped inside and immediately grabbed my phone. I opened her message again, and for the first time, I truly considered everything she had said. And then, in that moment, I knew what I had to do. I needed to hear her out. But this time, it was going to be on my terms. I would not let her control the situation. I would not let her manipulate me into believing that everything could just go back to normal. If we were going to talk, it would be to understand where we both stood. It would be to address the reality of our situation, not to dance around the pain and the lies. I typed out my reply. We need to talk. But this time, no games. And as soon as I sent it, I felt a shift inside me. It wasn't relief or joy. It was something more profound. It was the realization that, no matter how this conversation went, I was finally taking control. The seconds seemed to stretch into eternity as I stared at the screen, waiting for her reply. My finger hovered over the phone, uncertain of what would happen next. I had made my decision. There would be no more running away from the truth, no more pretending that everything could just be swept under the rug. The past had already happened, and I couldn't change it. But how I chose to move forward was still within my control. I knew that whatever she said next would be pivotal. It would either confirm the doubts that had been festering inside me, or it would present a chance for a fresh start. But what kind of fresh start was possible after everything we had been through? I heard the soft buzz of my phone vibrating on the table beside me, cutting through the silence of my thoughts. I picked it up slowly, trying to suppress the nervous anticipation that was building in my chest. Her response was waiting, glowing on the screen. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. I can't stop thinking about us. You were my everything, and I know I made a huge mistake leaving. I regret it every single day. But you have to understand, it's not as simple as you think. There's more to this than you know. Can we meet? Can we talk face to face? I need you to hear me out. I read the message over and over again, my heart racing. A part of me felt a flicker of hope, the kind of hope that I hadn't felt in months. But another part of me, the rational part, screamed at me to be cautious. What did she mean? There's more to this than you know. What could she possibly say that would make me reconsider everything? The past 2 years had been filled with lies, manipulation, and betrayal. How could she expect me to believe anything she said now? I typed a response quickly, not wanting to overthink it. Fine, we can meet. But this is it. No more excuses. No more games. I hit send, and then I put the phone down on the table, trying to steady my breathing. I wasn't sure what I was feeling anymore. Anger, confusion, uncertainty. Maybe all of it. I couldn't ignore the nagging voice in my head that kept asking, what is she really after? There was a sense of urgency in her words that I couldn't ignore. Was she coming back because she realized she made a mistake? Or was there something else? Something I hadn't yet figured out? A few hours later, the time arrived. I walked to the coffee shop where we had agreed to meet. It was a quiet, neutral place, perfect for conversations that needed a sense of privacy without being too intimate. My mind raced as I approached the door. I kept reminding myself to stay calm, to stay grounded. No matter what happened, I was determined to maintain control of the situation. I sat at a table in the corner, watching the door, waiting for her to arrive. As each person walked in, my pulse quickened. Was it her? Was it her coming to explain herself? To try to mend the broken pieces of our past? Or was she just another woman passing through, unaware of the chaos I was about to step into? The door opened, and there she was. She looked different. There was something about her that wasn't quite the same as the woman I had once known, the woman who had left me without a second thought. She was wearing a simple dress, her hair pulled back loosely. The carefree demeanor she once had seemed replaced with something more solemn. Her eyes searched the room until they landed on me, and for a moment, neither of us moved. She walked toward me slowly, each step heavy with the weight of what was about to unfold. Her face was a mixture of nervousness and determination, like she was about to deliver something I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. She sat down opposite me, and for a long moment, we both just stared at each other in silence. I took a deep breath. The words I had rehearsed in my head moments before evaporating like smoke. So why? I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. Why did you do it? Why leave? Was it really about him? Or was it something else? I could feel my pulse quickening again, the anger starting to creep up my spine. She blinked, her gaze not leaving mine. I don't know how to explain it. I was confused. I was lost. I thought I wanted something different, something younger, something more exciting. But I was wrong. I didn't understand what I had until it was gone. I could feel the bitterness bubbling inside me. It was like all the rage and hurt from the past months were suddenly flooding back. But I held it in, clenching my fists under the table. You didn't think about me at all. You didn't think about everything we built. You just tossed it all aside. Her eyes filled with tears, and she looked away, ashamed. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I thought that if I left, I could find something better. But I was wrong. And every single day, I've regretted it. I've missed you so much. I've missed us. Then why reach out now? I asked, my voice sharp. Why now, after everything? You think just because you say you're sorry, everything's going to go back to the way it was? She shook her head, her lips trembling. No, I know I can't erase what I've done. I don't want to pretend like nothing happened. But I've been thinking. I've been trying to understand what went wrong. And I know I made the wrong choice. But I can't undo it. All I can do now is beg for your forgiveness. My heart ached hearing those words. I could feel the sincerity in her voice. But was that enough? Could I really forgive her for everything? I leaned back in my chair, trying to gather my thoughts. Part of me wanted to take her in my arms and tell her it was okay. Part of me wanted to let the walls fall down, to embrace her like I once did. But I couldn't ignore the pain. The betrayal still stung. You hurt me, I said softly, my voice hoarse. You shattered everything we had. You left me with nothing but broken promises. And now you expect me to just forgive you. She reached across the table, her hand trembling. I don't expect anything, but I want a chance to make things right. I need you to know that I love you. I always have, and I always will, but I know that I have to earn your trust back. My mind was spinning, torn between the love I had once felt for her and the anger that had been building in me for months. Why didn't you tell me there was more to this? I asked, my voice cracking. You said there was more. What do you mean by that? She took a deep breath and looked down at her hands, as though gathering the strength to tell me something important. There's something I need to confess. Something I should have told you long ago. Her eyes met mine, her expression serious. It wasn't just about him. There's a reason I left. Something bigger than both of us. I leaned in closer, my heart pounding in my chest. What are you talking about? I was pregnant when I left, she whispered, her voice barely audible. The words hit me like a wave, crashing over me and leaving me gasping for air. Pregnant. I blinked, struggling to process what she had just said. The room seemed to close in around me as I tried to make sense of the impossible. You were pregnant? I repeated, my voice shaky. She nodded slowly, her eyes filling with tears. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know if I could handle everything, and I didn't want to tie you down. I thought leaving was the best option, but I was wrong. I should have told you sooner. Pregnant. The word echoed in my mind, ringing through my thoughts like a thunderclap. How could I not have known? How could I have missed something so important? What did this mean for us now? What did it mean for everything we had been through? The words, I was pregnant, hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I felt my heart racing, pounding in my chest as if it were trying to escape the chaos that had just unfolded in front of me. My thoughts were a tangled mess of confusion, anger, disbelief, and hurt. I wanted to shout, to scream at her for keeping this from me, for making decisions on her own without considering me. How could she have kept something like this from me? But instead, all I could do was stare at her tear-filled eyes, the trembling of her hands. This was the woman I once loved, the woman I thought I knew. And yet, here she was, breaking me with the truth that I wasn't ready for, and yet I had to face. I don't know what to say, I whispered, my voice hoarse and barely audible. She reached for my hand again, her touch softer this time, more vulnerable. I didn't want to hurt you, I swear. I thought I could do it alone. I thought that leaving would be the best thing for everyone, but I was wrong. I see that now. I see everything now, and I need you to understand. I pulled my hand back, not out of anger, but because I needed space. Space to breathe, to process everything she had just thrown at me. My mind was reeling, and I could feel the familiar sting of tears threatening to escape. But I fought them back. I wouldn't let myself break down again. Not now. Not when everything seemed so impossible. So what? You thought you could just disappear, live this life with him, and I'd never find out? You really thought you could just erase everything we had? I didn't mean to erase it, she pleaded, her voice cracking. I was afraid, okay? Afraid of being trapped, of being tied down. I thought I could go somewhere else and start over, and maybe things would be better. But they weren't. Nothing was better. I've never stopped thinking about you. Every day I've wondered if I made a mistake. I shook my head, feeling the anger begin to rise in me again. A mistake? You left me. You left me without so much as a goodbye. And now you expect me to just pick up where we left off, because you regret it? You broke us, and now you want to glue it back together with a sorry. Her eyes filled with more tears, and she looked down at her lap, the weight of my words sinking into her. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought leaving was the only way. But every night, all I did was think about you. Wonder if you were okay. Wonder if you hated me. I felt my own anger begin to dissolve, replaced by something heavier, an ache that had been growing inside me for so long. I had spent months trying to convince myself that I was better off, that I didn't need her, that I could heal and move on. But I realized then, as I stared at her, that I had never truly let go. I had never really healed. Not fully. Why didn't you come back sooner? I asked, my voice quieter now. Why now? Why after everything? Why couldn't you see what you were doing when it was happening? She swallowed hard, her hands shaking as she wiped her eyes. I was lost. I couldn't see it. I thought I was running towards something better, but instead, I ran away from what really mattered. And now I know it's too late, but I had to try. I had to tell you the truth. I leaned back in my chair, staring at her, trying to piece together everything that had just been said. I couldn't bring myself to say anything more, so I simply sat there, letting the silence stretch between us. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said something that shattered me. I was going to tell you, I swear I was. But then I lost the baby. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, stealing all the air from my lungs. My hands felt cold, numb. I stared at her, unable to comprehend what she had just revealed. You what? You lost the baby. She nodded, her face crumpling in pain. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to deal with it. I thought I could keep going, that it was a mistake, and that I'd get over it. But it stayed with me. The loss, the regret, everything. The room around us seemed to blur, the walls closing in on me. The pain in her voice, the agony of her words. It was almost too much to bear. I didn't know what to feel anymore. I didn't know whether to feel sorrow, to feel sympathy, or to feel anger that she had kept this from me for so long. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something. She had carried that grief alone, the grief of losing a child, of losing everything, and of having no one there to share it with. I felt a lump form in my throat, but I couldn't cry. I couldn't let the tears fall. Not yet. Not when I still didn't know what to do with all the emotions swirling inside me. I didn't know. I whispered. I didn't know you were going through all that. I didn't want you to know, she said softly. I didn't want to burden you with my mistakes. But now I see I've burdened you with everything else. The lies. The pain. I made you carry all of that, too. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The words didn't seem to matter anymore. They were just words. Words I had heard 1,000 times before. Sorry, regret, apologies. It was all just a game now, wasn't it? But I knew I couldn't keep holding on to the past forever. I couldn't keep carrying the weight of the betrayal and the loss on my own. I need to know, I said, my voice trembling. Do you truly love me? Or is this all just guilt? Are you here because you feel guilty? She looked at me, her eyes filled with raw honesty. I love you. I always have. I never stopped. There it was. The truth. The answer I had been searching for. It wasn't the answer I wanted, not completely, but it was enough for me to know that, at least in this moment, she was being honest. She was trying to make amends. But was that enough for me? I looked at her, seeing the brokenness in her face, the deep pain she carried, and I felt my heart crack a little more. I loved her. I always had. But I also knew that love wasn't enough. Not anymore. Not after everything we had been through. I stood up slowly, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I took a deep breath and looked at her one last time. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said, my voice steady but filled with sorrow. But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep living in the past, holding on to something that's already gone. We've both lost too much. She nodded, her face pale, her eyes brimming with tears. I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. And I'm here. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I turned to leave, the weight of the decision settling on me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if I would ever truly heal from the pain she had caused, or if we could ever rebuild what was lost. But for the first time in a long time, I knew one thing with certainty. I had to move forward. It was the only choice left. As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt the weight of everything we had been through. The love, the betrayal, the heartbreak. All of it was behind me now. I didn't know what came next, but I had a feeling that this was the beginning of something new. Something I couldn't yet understand. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to face it.